Belville Show is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate to the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate any illegal activity and encourage all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers on the Russ Belville Show are their own, and the Russ Belville Show cannot be held legally responsible for their validity or reliability. Viewer discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think that we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. Brought to you by the National Cannabis Coalition.
Yeah, I hear you had a question for me.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. It is Tuesday, June 12th, 2012, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Thank you for joining us here. We're on beta test day 2 here of National Cannabis Radio, and I beta start fixing some stuff. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. Ganja John sitting in on seat number 2, enjoying the puns.
That actually made me laugh. I like that.
And we got Wiz Kaliko over on camera 3. How you doing, Kaliko?
Aloha to everyone. Doing quite well today.
Also, I don't know if you can see it behind Kaliko there. You have to move to the side a bit, Kaliko. We got a banner sent to us from a fan for the Russ Belville Show. Thank you so much for sending the banner. We appreciate that. Also joining us from our virtual studio in Astoria, Oregon, we have Cannabis Carrie on the line. Hi, Carrie. Oh, we are having ourselves such a day today. I thought that I'd had the video things fixed to be able to present all the video intros. There's still some sort of ghost in the machine that's causing those videos to not replay. That's why you're seeing the weird screenshot there on our webcam. But we'll get this all worked out. It's new technology, a new platform. That's why we do a beta test week before we do our grand launch. Oh. No kidding. And then still having to be live during the week that you're getting it switched over. So we'll do the best we can. Thanks for joining us here on National Cannabis Radio and the Russ Belville Show. We got a great show for you today. I'm really looking forward to this. The author of this book, High Insights on Marijuana, is joining us. It's Sebastian Marincolo, excuse me. He's going to call us. We're going to be talking to him in Germany today, so I get to use a little bit of my high school German that is so desperately useful here in America.
We look forward to that.
Yeah. So we're going to speak to Sebastian there at half past the hour. The book is about basically insights while on marijuana. It's, titles like Creativity, Enhanced Pattern Recognition, Hyper-Focusing, Opening the Inner Doors of Perception. He's got stuff there from, he had interviewed Dr. Lester Grinspoon. He's got stuff there from Carl Sagan and other notables. It'll be a really interesting talk, and I encourage you to check out this book, High Insights on Marijuana. Also on the show today, it's Electric Tuesday. Cannabis Carrie is bringing us some Electric Tuesday remix music, so this will be really cool. Some stuff that's been remixed of Mikey Dreads. Then at the end of the show, we'll have time for me to get into a radical rant. You know, I've been going rounds and rounds on the internet with a few people about the civil rights aspect of marijuana legalization. Last night's guest on A Different View was Pam Spalding. She's a prominent gay and lesbian blogger as well as African-American blogger. So we talked last night about civil rights, you know, for African-Americans, for LGBT people, and for marijuana consumers. And I want to reflect on that just a little bit. And we'll take that into hour 2, where we can take your calls on Toker Talk Radio. The phone number is 971-533-7111. That'll be in hour 2 here, 4 o'clock Pacific time. We'll take your calls. Also, if anyone wants to rag on me for yesterday's rant, where I talked about voting pragmatically, how you should vote for the person who's going to legalize marijuana, unless you live in a swing state, and then you got to think about it a little more. We'll take your calls on that, too, at 971-533-7111.
Don't touch that dial.
But before all that, we are going to get to the news with Cannabis Carrie. She'll be with us right after this first break, and we will then take you into the 20 after break, get you some of those tunes, and enjoy all of that. So stay tuned. You're listening to National Cannabis Radio and the Russ Belville Show. Right back after these messages.
Support the Russ Belville Show. Text the word Russ to 420-420 and connect with the National Cannabis Coalition. You can also send $10 to the Russ Belville Show right from your smartphone. That's Russ to 420-420. You're listening to Radical Russ on the Russ Belville Show.
Pulled up today in the van, and I walked out of the building, walked through the big building over, and I walked outside, and I'm walking over by the lake, and I just see everybody casually smoking weed like it's all right. Like it's supposed to be like that.
Because it is all
Like
right.
you ain't got to worry about no police coming and asking you what you smoking or what are you doing here, or let me see your driver's license. See, that's how they do it in Amsterdam. Everybody just out there chilling. Ain't nobody stressing. You go buy your weed at the shop, you go kick it, smoke your weed, walk the street, do whatever you want to, and you don't
Do
even
you
think
really
that's
want to
weed.
legalize marijuana? Prove it. Join the National Cannabis Coalition at nationalcannabiscoalition.com, where your donations directly support PotNet and the Russ Belville Show. Free speech ain't free. Medical marijuana, industrial hemp, ganja sacrament, consumer cannabis. The topic of marijuana is heating up the news, and the Russ Belville Show catches you up with today's latest headlines. Now, here's our senior news editor, Cannabis Carrie, with the Daily Cannabis Chronicle.
Yesterday, an early morning raid on a Sacramento dispensary was executed for the El Camino Wellness Center. DEA agents raided the facility in the early morning hours around 6 a.m., and they also raided the homes of the executive directors at the same time. The Sacramento police were also on hand, but they were only there for crowd control. And indeed, because of social media apps like Facebook and Twitter, some protesters began gathering outside the center within the hour. The El Camino Wellness Center had been operating since 2008. The center is only one of 4 dispensaries that had gone through the rigorous vetting process of the city. They also provide chiropractic services, massages, peer counseling, and other health services. Wellness spokesperson Linda Stokely says there are no schools or parks within 1,000 feet of the location, making it compliant with both state and the loose federal guidelines for raids. The dispensary has hosted numerous tours of their facility for city council members, as well as state and local officials. City Councilman Steve Cohen said he had sent a letter to California U.S. Attorney Ben Wagner, calling the dispensary a leader in the city's effort to regulate dispensaries, and saying that he had toured the facility and that he was impressed with its overall level of compassion and professionalism. California Assemblyman Tom Amiano has sponsored a bill to regulate the California dispensary industry, said that, quote, 80% of us Californians who support medical cannabis are disappointed in the raids and want some backing from the Obama administration to end this reefer madness. Linda Stokely also told National Cannabis Radio that the operators had no precursor signs that the raid was imminent, but she did say that they knew a day like this was a possibility since they opened their doors. Stokely said the most frustrating thing about the raids was that the federal field warrant is sealed, so they have no idea exactly what they were looking for. She said it was far too early to predict if the business will be able to reopen. They are still assessing the damage. She said the well-run, well-established business was totally cleaned out. They took everything it would take to run a business, including all of their files and computers. As is typical, no arrests were made, and now 24 hours after the raids, no one is sure if there will be any arrest. Stokely said that the feeling in Sacramento is if they can take down the guys that are running totally transparent and doing things right, everyone is a target. A protest was held in support for the center yesterday, and organizers are planning another one in the near future.
Now, imagine what it would be like if me and John and Kaliko got ourselves all bound up in gear, get the body armor on and, get some shield masks and helmets and all of that, and put some badges on, nice shiny badges on, and go in with some automatic weapons to, I don't know, how about the auto parts store down the road? Now, we go down to the auto parts store and we burst in, everybody's just minding their own business, selling spark plugs and stuff. And we come into the auto parts store, everybody out of here, everybody on the ground. We start putting zip ties behind people's back, hands behind their backs, and we start tossing stuff over and pushing over cash registers and breaking them open and smashing their display cases that are in there and throwing stuff off the shelves, spark plugs and alternators and water pumps and whatever. And then we bring in, trucks and we just haul stuff off in boxes. All your parts, all of the stuff that you're selling, even the little, the windshield squeegee stuff and the little tchotchkes that you put, off of your rear view mirror, the little fuzzy dice. We haul it all away. Take the whole damn thing. And we pack it all up. We take your computers too. We'll seize your computers and all your records of your auto parts store. And then also, while we're there, we'll make sure that the facility itself is left in such a manner that it couldn't easily be used again, right? You're gonna have to completely restock the whole thing and rebuild your displays and all of that stuff. So we go through all of that trouble, right? We totally destroy your business for no reason whatsoever. We don't sell off your auto parts. We don't do anything with the building. Nobody was complaining to us about the auto parts store. In fact, a lot of people shopped at the auto parts store. They really liked going to the auto parts store. But now, no more auto parts store because me and Kaliko and John got a wild hire up our ass to dress up and play macho and be Mr. Super Cop and go in there and bust up the auto parts store. It sounds ludicrous, I know, when I'm talking like this. You're like, this is a ridiculous story, Russ, but that's the way it sounds to us when they're coming in and they're bursting in and doing these smash and grabs on our dispensaries. The people going there want to go there. The people selling there want to sell there. And in large part, the communities like the dispensaries that are there. And in fact, a lot of people like them because they're well regulated. They got the security cams. They're checking IDs. Everybody knows what's going on there. They even go out of their way, like an auto parts store wouldn't care whether it was within 1,000 feet of a school, a playground, or a church. But no, the dispensaries, they'll go out of their way to try to find some place off the beaten path. So God forbid anybody sees a marijuana leaf. God, it's just amazing that we tolerate this. And then to have no arrests filed, no charges filed, just belies the fact that there's no crime going on here worth pursuing. It just underlies the fact that the federal government is just protecting the turf of its drug dealer friends in Big Pharma. That's really what's happening here. The only function of these raids is to shut down these businesses, is to prevent people who aren't Pfizer and Merck and Eli Lilly from making money selling remedies to people that want it. That's very clearly what's going on here. And this is why it's so important that we do not stop at just mere medical marijuana, mere second-class citizenship, that we go all the way to marijuana legalization for all people for whatever reason, so that we can come up with reasonable regulations to control this market instead of letting criminals control the market in Mexico, and instead of having good people here in America who are trying to be a legitimate market shut down by these overzealous U.S. attorneys and the Drug Enforcement Administration. I'm sorry, the Drug Employment Administration.
And a grieving mother who lost her 19-year-old son when he was shot and killed by a Border Patrol agent is now suing the agency, claiming that the shooting was an appalling use of excessive force. Guadalupe Guerrero's son, Carlos La Madrid, was shot in the back twice and once in the leg as he climbed a ladder on the U.S. side of a Mexican border fence. Guerrero said that the Border Patrol did not have the right to take her son's life, even if what they say was true, that Carlos La Madrid had some marijuana in his truck, an allegation she contends. Lucas Tidwell is the agent that shot the Arizona man who was unarmed and died about 5 hours after languishing in pain at an area hospital. The incident happened in March of 2011 and got little media attention. Guerrero, who was speaking in Spanish on what would have been her son's 21st birthday this week, asked, "Who are the border agents to play God?" Guerrero said her son was a good student and studying agriculture in college in hopes of having his own farm. She said that he didn't do drugs, but even if he did have marijuana in his truck, she asked if that was dangerous enough to kill an unarmed boy and an American citizen. She asked why the Border Patrol agents did just not take her son to jail. A police report from the incident said the officers were responding to a tip about a car that was loading drugs, and when they tried to stop La Madrid and another teen, 17-year-old Jesus Manuel Chino Lino, La Madrid, who was driving, set off a chase by police and the Border Patrol that ended at the border wall, on which two men were sitting. As La Madrid climbed a fence propped up on the wall, one of the men began throwing rocks at Tidwell's vehicle, hitting the windshield twice, according to the report. That's when Tidwell shot La Madrid, whose back was turned and who hadn't thrown any rocks, also according to the report. At least one bullet was fired from inside the vehicle. Police reported finding a burlap sack of marijuana weighing about 48 pounds in La Madrid's car. The sheriff report did not include an interview with Tidwell, the agent who fired the shots. A sheriff's spokesman said it was because, quote, they were not provided access to the agent. The report also said that the Border Patrol did not cooperate with sheriff investigators, telling one officer that, quote, she could not speak to anyone or do anything without the FBI. The sheriff's office was in charge of investigating the shooting, while the FBI was investigating the rock throwing. Guerrero is seeking an undisclosed amount of money in her 2 lawsuits against the government and the agent that she filed last month. If she wins any monetary damages, she says that all that money will go to start a nonprofit group to help poor children in the U.S.
It's a terrible, terrible story. And, maybe I'm just a pothead, and maybe I don't understand what crime really is, because apparently our government's, really dedicated to trying to stop people from, smoking, growing, and transporting an herb, really dedicated to that. But do they have to be so dedicated to that as to be killing people? I mean, the morality seems pretty easy to me. There's only really 3 valid reasons for causing harm to another human being. One is if that human being is going to cause harm to you. And of course, that's self-defense, and that's perfectly justifiable. Number 2 is if some human being is going to cause harm to someone else. And that is another form of self-defense, defending someone else's self when they're unable to do so, and that's justified. And number 3 is if the 2 of you agree that, or the groups of you agree that you wish to harm each other, like in, mixed martial arts or, hockey or something like that. That's fine too, of course. And also the response needs to be proportional to the threat. Kids throwing rocks at you in a car does not justify you shooting at them. I don't care if you're Border Patrol. I don't care if they're carrying, a ton of weed. People don't need to be dying over this. Have we really gone this far afield from what it means to be just and righteous and moral in this country? I mean, I'm not a Christian or anything, but it seems to me that shooting at kids that are throwing rocks at your car isn't something Christ would do.
And these cases are so disturbing to report on. We have reports of a medical marijuana patient in Los Angeles who has been removed from the kidney transplant list at the famed Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. Americans for Safe Access are reporting that Tony Trujillo is the 2nd patient in the last year to be removed from the hospital's transplant list due to their medical marijuana use. Tony has had kidney problems for most of her life and has been on dialysis for the last 5 years. She's been using medical marijuana to try and stimulate her appetite. She said that since she has been using marijuana as a medicine, something she's been doing for the last 2 years, her protein levels have increased. Although she has not hid her medical marijuana use from her doctors, and she said she has never had any pushback from the hospital about her medical marijuana use, she was shocked to find out that she had been delisted from the transplant list for substance abuse. Tony Trujillo had been waiting on the transplant list for the last 6 years. She said in a statement yesterday, quote, I don't know why Cedars would deny me a transplant simply because I use a legal medication that works for me. I hope they listen to reason and change their misguided policy. If not for me, then at least for the others who will certainly follow. Trujillo, along with fellow patient Norman B. Smith, was also denied a liver transplant for his inoperable liver cancer. He had been using medical marijuana to mitigate the symptoms of chemotherapy. He has been told now that he has about 90 days to live without a transplant. That's really bad news for Smith. Both patients must take drug counseling and test negative for marijuana for 6 months to requalify for the waiting list. Now, this is life or death. Both patients are going to comply and get back on the list, but they will be added to the bottom of the transplant list. Joe Elford of the ASA said that denying necessary transplants to medical marijuana patients is the worst kind of discrimination, and that Cedars-Sinai would not be breaking any laws, federal or otherwise, by granting Tony Trujillo a kidney transplant, and it's certainly the ethical thing to do.
Yeah, this is kind of our signature issue. Ganja John is here because of this issue. And we'll talk a lot more about this in hour 2 for sure. We've only got about 30 seconds here. But
there's a lot to talk about.
But just real quickly here, nothing could be more cruel, and there's no science whatsoever to back up any claims that giving a transplant to someone who's a cannabis user is going to be harmful. Is going to, like, their reasoning is that you're a drug addict and then you're going to harm the liver or whatever it is that you're getting, and it would be a waste of that organ. We'll tell you all about it in hour 2 because the science is not on their side.
Proof that it's not true.
Yeah, proof is sitting right next to me, right here, damn it. What more do you need?
It's 420 back in Idaho, where Russ and Carrie were born. So we have to go connect with our roots, you know what I mean? Please support these sponsors who support the Russ Belville Show.
Oh, have you ever?
All right, we'll be right back with your daily toker tune, Electric Tuesday music coming to you from Mikey Dread Remix. Check it out on National Cannabis Radio. This is the Russ Belville Show.
He would send you South Carolina, then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
I'm Sub Cool from Team Green Avenger. At TGAgenetics.com, we are working on the leading edge of medical strains. Our strains are rigorously tested for THC, CBD, THCV, and other critical cannabinoids. Know your grow. Check out our genetic diversity at TGAgenetics.com, the home of Jelly Bean, Jack the Ripper, Vortex, and other award-winning cannabis strains.
The Russ Belville Show.
I'm not very good at singing songs, but here's a try.
According to lifelong pot smoker and rocket scientist Carl Sagan, making apple pies from scratch is extremely difficult.
If you wish to make an apple pie from scratch, you must first invent the universe.
Radical Russ and the Rolla J Studios crew will be right back after these messages.
A morning filled with 400 billion suns. The rising of the Milky Way. The cosmos is full beyond measure.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Electric Tuesday, featuring the latest in electronic dance music and other cutting-edge genres. You can get downloads and more information about all our Daily Toker Tunes by visiting music.radicalruss.com. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tune.
All right, for Daily Toker Tunes today, we're kind of doing a merge. This is kind of a electric Irie day, or Irie electric. I'm not sure how we're going to say it, Clico, but electric Irie?
Electric Irie, since it comes before Irie Wednesdays.
All right, electric Irie, because Mikey Dread's kind of one of your artists that you would play on Irie Wednesdays, for sure. But Carrie...
And we've had Mikey Dread music on the show going way back on the old show.
That's what I think, and the name sounded really, really familiar to me. So Carrie got this one for us for Electric Tuesday. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
I can tell you, it really wasn't until our very own cannabis curer, Greg DeHote, came to live with us here in the Northwest last year that I really began to dig on dubstep. Always had a healthy curiosity about the tents and the DJs and the twirling people at festivals, but I really hadn't put any electric music or dubstep in my own music collection until last year. Now I love it. I have tons of it. One DJ that I'm a big fan of and that I follow is an artist from LA, Kelly Dean. And today we feature Kelly Dean. And with that, we get the perfect electric groove this Tuesday that will ease us into Irie Wednesday as well. Dean features the late, great reggae artist Mikey Dread in our music today for some fatty dubstep. It's a perfect dubstep groove from Dean, who remixed remixes Dread's Warrior Style into a sweet trance ready for consumption. Mikey's vocals are front and center to a chunky bass line and smooth electric groove, and this track doesn't have any heavy drum lines, so it's just the perfect amount of beats that you can put this track on repeat if you happen to be working through a king-size paper.
All right.
Kelly Dean's music is readily available on his Facebook page, and if you're in the LA area, you can hear him on Smog Sundays most of this month at Dim Max Studios on Cosmo Street in LA. Please follow him, like his page, download his latest mixes. All are at Kelly Dean, whether it's on Twitter or Facebook, whatever. So here's Kelly Dean with Warrior Style remix.
All right. This is your Electric Tuesday music. You can get the downloads at music.radicalruss.com.
Dear Mom, when I was in college, I used to drink a lot. It was kind of crazy. But now that I'm older, I prefer to use marijuana. It's less harmful to my body, I don't get hungover, and honestly, I feel safer around marijuana users. I hope this makes sense, but if not, let's talk. I love you.
Catch the 420 Activism Hour, featuring activist videos from the nonprofits working to end prohibition, plus the occasional radical rant. It's the 420 Activism Hour. Check potnet.us for airtime. The cannabis community includes a diverse set of activists and nonprofits working to end the prohibition of marijuana. We take the time to hear the stories of reform on the Russ Belville Show's Cannabis Community Chat.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Russ Belville Show. Glad to have you here. Today we've got an author on the line, and we're speaking to him from Germany by Skype, and the book is called High, Insights on Marijuana. The author is Sebastian Marincolo. Sebastian, welcome to the show.
Hi, Russ. Thank you for inviting me.
Glad to be here. Wie geht es Ihnen?
Excuse me, I didn't hear that.
I'm Beston. So there we go. We've exhausted all my German. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here because one of the first things I noticed when I got the book, High, Insights on Marijuana, is that it had a lot of information in here about a couple of people who are some of my icons, and some of the people that I really look up to here in this movement, and that is Dr. Lester Grinspoon and the late Carl Sagan, his very best friend. So I was wondering if you could tell people what the book's about and how do Dr. Sagan and Dr. Grinspoon figure into it?
Well, Russ, the book is basically about insights that you can get on marijuana if you use it correctly. My special field in philosophy, I'm a PhD in philosophy, is philosophy of mind. So I got interested in, when I smoked, I got interested in the effects, higher cognitive effects of marijuana on memory, cognition, and attention, and especially on our ability to have insights. Of course, Lester Grinspoon comes in because at some point during my research, I realized that I was working on the very same project that he had been on lately, which is he has a website of marijuanauses.com, and where he collects anecdotal evidence of people who are using, not abusing, but using marijuana for all kinds of purposes. And of course, there are a lot of interesting reports about enhancements that you have on marijuana, that you can have on marijuana. And so I contacted Lester Grinspoon a few years ago and said, told him that I'm working on a book and that we're both basically seemingly the only people who are working on the project of trying to find out more about the enhancements of marijuana as it comes to, the cognitive enhancements, creativity and insights and empathy and all that. Whereas he's coming from trying to come up with more anecdotal evidence, whereas I was trying to find explanations of the cognitive science and philosophy behind those phenomena. So that's how I met Lester Grinspoon, and of course Carl Sagan plays into that because he wrote a really great essay about insights on marijuana, and he had always claimed that marijuana helped him in his science.
All right, and of course, as I look at the book in the contents here, you've got it broken down into two parts. The first part, dopes, psychonauts, and the doors of perception. And the second part, marijuana's cognitive enhancements. So is this maybe a division between the subjective and the objective? That is, in the first part, are you looking at what people think and experience, and then in the second part, the science behind that, or what is the meaning behind the dividing it up into those two parts?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't put it that way. I think I'm trying to give explanations all the way in the book, and I'm trying also to always come up with stories and anecdotal evidence, which I find is one of the most important roots in that field. I'm not the only one. I think Lester Grinspoon and also Charles Tart, who wrote the study on being stoned in 1969, I think, they also used anecdotal evidence because for many reasons, because there's not a lot of things, there are not many things to be found in studies there, and it's a very good route into understanding better these effects. The book actually, I'd say the first part is more about setting up the terrain, trying to explain to people what my sources were and how the approach is. And basically, I would say it's a cognitive science approach with philosophy, with my own experiences coming in, but so it's also a psychonautic approach. But it's very much also based on anecdotal evidence. So I'm trying to explain that in the first part, and then like the second part of the book is basically to explain from the bottom up the effects on memory, on attention, on imagination, and then trying to go way up to the more really highly complicated cognitive abilities we have, which is our ability to introspect our own minds, our ability to empathically understand other people, and our ability to have insights in general. And I'm trying to first come up and to see how marijuana can enhance our episodic memory, how does it act on working space memory, and then trying later to integrate that into an understanding of the more complicated effects, for instance, of empathy, the enhancement of empathy.
And as you're interviewing people and comparing this with your own experiences, did you find there was a consistency of experience for people using cannabis, or was it wildly different for each user?
There is a consistency if you look for if you look at it the right way, I'd say. And there's of course, I had a lot of experiences with marijuana even before I researched into the thing, and then later I found really very detailed explanations and very detailed reports of people exactly telling of the same experience. Now, the problem is, I think there are a lot of differences out there. Some people say, well, it doesn't make me empathic at all. Now, we have that formula from Timothy Leary saying that whatever, if you are evaluating a trip or whatever psychedelic experience or experience on psychoactive substances, you have to take into account first the dose, then the set and the setting, where the set is what you bring as a person to the high, what kind of attitudes, beliefs you have, what kind of education you have, what character you have, and the setting, of course, is the environment in which you are. And so if these factors are different, people are, some people smoke marijuana when they are, and get paranoid because they are around people who don't like marijuana or would maybe go to the police with it or something like that. And so these are important factors to take into account when you look at reports of people. But even maybe as important, and Lester Grinspoon and I used to stress that fact, is you have to look at the reports and look at the people reporting and see if there are experienced users and if they have learned how to control a high, how to, as I call it, how to ride a high. Mm-hmm. So that's very important because if you have experienced people, you will find a lot of similar stories, and you will find that they have found ways to use the potential of marijuana, and those are very, very similar stories. If you talk to a wide variety of people, people who don't know what they're taking, who are overdosing, who are taking who are smoking bad marijuana, who are not able and not willing to, with the wrong attitude, they will tell you a lot of stuff that is completely different from what I'm writing about.
Now, we were speaking with Sebastian Marincolo. He's the author of High, Insights on Marijuana, this fine book that gets into the perceptions and like you put it here, the cognitive enhancements from marijuana use. But, our opponents, the people that want to keep marijuana illegal, will say that there's cognitive deficits from using marijuana, like forgetting things and becoming apathetic. What did you find in your research and in speaking with these people about these supposed deficits or harms from marijuana to one's cognition?
Well, I'd say, first of all, you have to make the most important thing to stress and to point out to those people is first you have to make a distinction between long-term effects and short-term effects. So what I'm talking about is only short-term effects. What happens while you are high? So that's the short-term side. The long-term side, on the long-term side, I'd say, well, if you look at studies, there's almost no damages, no the toxicity is really, really, really low. But let's stay with the short-term side for a moment. There are, of course, deficits. For instance, it all depends on how you look at how you use the substance and what you use it for. Let me just give you an example of one effect which is very, very famous, which is hyper-focusing, where you hyper-focus on whatever. When you're high, you're hyper-focusing on, for instance, you eat an ice cream and you just have the taste of the ice cream, nothing else matters. Or you're listening to music and you're really, really focused on the music, you're hyper-focusing. You can use that effect really, really well for a lot of things, to get into, you can explore ideas, you can explore memories, you can go into taste experience, it can be great for sex, it can be great for as I said, listening to music, producing music, etc., etc. But of course, if you're hyper-focused, you might be worse in multitasking situations. But so you might get confused if you're in bigger crowds, if you have a lot of tasks to do. And if you're high, you're standing at an airport, you're high, you have to call somebody, you have to be in a schedule on something. And that doesn't work for you. So marijuana, the high works for you if you know how to use it and if you know how to use those effects, if you know how to ride your high. But of course, there are, those effects, it's not a general enhancement of everything. It comes with cognitive costs. So it's like the same, there is a story about Norbert Wiener, who basically, the Nobel Prize winner for mathematics, who walked over the campus of his university and was asked by a student. A student ran into him and he asked him a question about mathematics, and Wiener explained it to him. And absent-minded as he was, Wiener asked him later, which direction did I come from? And the student says, why? He's a bit puzzled. And the student goes, well, you came from there, and points in the other direction. And Wiener says, oh, then I had my lunch already. So, Wiener was so absorbed, and we know that, it's like the famous absent-mindedness. I mean, in philosophy, I've seen incredible things like that. And we know that from everyday life. When you're absorbed, when you're really thinking about things, then you do stupid things. Of course, here, nobody would say Wiener is stupid. We would all know, well, this guy was thinking about probably he just solved a problem that gets him another Nobel Prize or something. But that happens with marijuana, with stoners too. I mean, they get high and they do some silly stuff. But of course, very often they do silly stuff because they're so absorbed with with their thoughts, with their memories, with whatever, that they have no more attention to give to other tasks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's something that totally hits home for me right now too, is the hyper-focusing. I've been trying to build a network in the past 2 weeks, and I've been very hyper-focused to the point where I'm in the middle of some task, and of course, we're here in Oregon, and we have plenty of access to cannabis, and it helps me with my work, and for some of the other reasons that you put in here too, as far as, reflection and creativity and so forth. But I'll be deep into the work, and I look up and, oh my gosh, it's 7 a.m. Talk about hyper-focusing.
Yeah, exactly. And then also I think that the hyper-focusing, exactly what you now point out, may be a cause of what we experience too, which is the time distortions of time perception, where sometimes you really think time slows down, sometimes you think it speeds up. We know that from you're absorbed in an activity, high or not high, and then after you look up and you're like, what? 7 hours have passed. Sometimes under marijuana, it's of course the other way around, which has probably a different reason, where you think like really things are slowing down. But yeah, the absorption is really, and the hyper-focusing, I think, is one of the most basic things that marijuana does for you. I also call it the Zen effect, because Zen tells you exactly to do that. Mm-hmm. The Zen Buddhist will tell you to, if you clean the floor, just clean the floor. Don't think about what you want to do tomorrow or what you have done today, or don't be angry about this, but just clean the floor and concentrate on that. Of course, there are some really, really funny situations that come out of that if you are really stoned. And my favorite story is, because I wrote a book about the enhancements, but on the other side, I was asking people all along the way for years now. I've been asking people about the silliest things that they've done while high, and you can imagine that you hear some funny stuff there. My favorite story is of a guy, an Indonesian acquaintance of mine, who went under the shower and used his shampoo and was rubbing the he's standing under the shower and he's rubbing the shampoo in his hair and in his body, and it feels like motor oil, and for like 2 minutes he stands there and can't get the shampoo off, and he's like, what did I grab now, what is this? And he just couldn't find out. You know what happened? You probably know.
Yeah. What'd he do?
He forgot to turn the water on.
Okay.
I realized only minutes later. And of course, if you see that and if you hear that, you think, okay, that stuff that makes me silly.
Yeah, find me that strain, can you? You gotta give me some of that. Well, we got to wrap things up here, Sebastian. I want to thank you for taking the time. I know it's got to be late in Germany and getting on the Skype with us, folks. The book is High, Insights on Marijuana. You'll learn things about hyper-focusing, synesthesia, creativity, enhanced pattern recognition, intensified imagination, mind racing, time perception, introspection, reflective contemplation, and empathetic understanding. Everything you'd want to know. And one last question as we wind up here. I can imagine there'd be two people that could be reading this book, someone who has used cannabis and someone who hasn't. For both of those audiences, how is this book going to help them?
It's going to help them because I think that it tells you a lot about your mind, what's going on, just in general. It's like a introduction to modern psychology too. It will help you to understand better how you can use marijuana in a better way. I think really that a lot depends on how you use marijuana and what effect you can get out of it. Basically, in an essay that I just wrote that goes in my new book now, I compared the marijuana to a surfboard. We know that you can go. The surfboard is a great tool for having blissful experiences, but it only works if you have the knowledge and the skill to use it. And I think that's with marijuana, it's the same way. It's a tool. You can abuse that, just like you can abuse a car to go racing and speeding and whatever, but you can use the car also to help people to get from A to B. And that's the same with marijuana. It's a very simple lesson, but a lot of people underestimate that, and I think my book could help people a lot to get into the deeper uses, into the really fine uses of marijuana. And I think it's a life enhancer. It helps on a personal level a lot, but I also hope that I can give inspiration to a lot of scientists out there, because I think the spin-off of that, if you look into what people usually call the inspirational uses of marijuana, there is a lot for medicinal uses in there too, for therapy, for trauma therapy, for psychoanalysis, and for all kinds of other applications, medical applications. So I hope to inspire both people, just normal people who want to get high and want to get good uses out of it, and scientists and the medical world with that book.
All right. Well, Sebastian Martincolo, thank you for being here. Dankeschön, wie geht's, and auf Wiederhören.
Thank you, Russ.
See you later. And folks, get the book, High Insights on Marijuana. When we come back, time for a little radical rant here on the Russ Belville Show on National Cannabis Radio. Stick around.
It's simply business. It's simply business. It's simply business. You know why they won't let us grow. It's simply business.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. Brought to you by the National Cannabis Coalition.
It's simply business. It's simply business. It's simply business. You know why they won't let us grow. It's simply business. It's simply business. You know why they won't let us grow. It's simply business.
Hi, this is Dan Michaels, your trusty neighborhood normal network voiceover dude. If you're looking for a professional voice talent for your commercial or podcast, I'm your guy. Visit my website, danmichaelsaudio.com, or email me, danmichaels@danmichaelsaudio.com for more information.
Hey, this is Willie Nelson for NORML. And if you're one of the 26 million Americans who smoked marijuana last year, you need to get involved in the drive to legalize marijuana. We need your help to stop the senseless arrest of more than 800,000 Americans each year on marijuana charges. Together, we can end marijuana prohibition and stop the arrests of marijuana smokers. To learn what you can do to help, contact NORML at NORML.org or call toll-free 888-67-NORML.
You want answers? I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended Shaolin Temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious. I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical rant.
All right, folks, going to get back to something I was ranting on last week. I got into this long old debate with another radio host named Ches Pazienza. He's on the show called the Ches and Bob Show, or Bob and Ches, I forget what it is, but Bob Cheska and Ches Pazienza. And he inspired me to write this post about marijuana legalization as a civil rights issue. And it's something I take very seriously because it's not about whether we're getting high, right? It's about whether or not somebody else, government, law enforcement, cops, whoever, have the right to the jurisdiction over my brain and my body. Right? I feel at this point, what's the Alexander Schulzen quote? The one that's the I am the Coast Guard of my own mind. I forget the entire quote. Someone in the chat room will find it. But I believe that. This is mine. This is my jurisdiction. This is me. This is mine. If a woman has the right to do with her uterus as she chooses, I have the right to do with my lungs what I choose, right? If somebody else has the right to drink Jack Daniels until they puke in their living room, I have the right to smoke a joint on my porch, okay? That's the rant that I basically got off onto. And so what happened is when I made this rant, I posted up in Huffington Post. And by the way, you can find all my Huffington Post articles at huffpo.radicalruss.com. But to his post called Reefer Madness, I responded with another post, and in it, I posted a picture of myself from Seattle Hemp Fest. I believe it was 2007. And it's a picture where I have, I've got my pot leaf cap on, which I wear sometimes on the show. And I'm smoking what we call the Portland Pinner. The Portland Pinner was a joint that was a yard long. I like to say it was a cubit long. You know, the old biblical cubit, you know, from the king's nose to his thumb. That's how long this joint was. And a stick around is about that, right? So I posted that picture, and it's backstage at HempFest, so there's all sorts of tie-dye and stuff and all around me. And I got this big old huge joint and a pot leaf hat. And so he posted the quote of the day, basically showed the picture, and then posted my quote about, you know, marijuana being the civil rights movement that people can still mock. And then followed that up with sometimes they just write themselves. Basically, he was mocking the fact that I was complaining about being mocked while smoking a wiffle ball. Well, let me just read it to you. Look, if I had my druthers, marijuana wouldn't just be decriminalized, it would be legalized, and states would sell it the same way they do alcohol and tax the hell out of it. There's lots of good arguments for decriminalization and or legalization. In short, more arguments than there are for criminalization. But it's my civil right to do with what I want to my body isn't one of them. Because, you know, it's not really true. First, society can forbid you from doing things that affect others. Second, because society can implement at least some restrictions to keep you from hurting yourself. And society can implement restrictions to protect people who can't protect themselves. So it is that society can regulate food additives, alcohol sales, smoking, seatbelts, motorcycle helmets, assorted drugs, and all sorts of things that one might try and say, it's my body. Then Ches then responds that his contention that people like me and folks that promote medical marijuana and industrial hemp inspire, quote, an urge to fire potheads out of a very large cannon aimed at the middle of the ocean. So that's the response we get when we try to make this point about government not, you know, breaking down our doors and, you know, taking our kids away and ruining our jobs and our scholarships, all over the fact that we just like to smoke a little pot. But I did want to address some of these points that he made in here, because first of all, it's not exactly true. What he's saying sounds a lot like hate the hippie to me. And it's not that far removed from the people that say that they support gay rights, but they get all upset because of the leather boys and the drag queens on the floats in the Pride Parade, right? Well, yeah, I'm all for gay rights, as long as they look normal, as long as they don't bother me any. Right? So that's kind of the point of why I posted the picture with the wiffle ball joint and the pot leaf hat and the tie-dye, is to make the point that it doesn't matter what you think of me, whether you think it's silly, whether you think it's, you know, radical or whatever. I still have that right. I have as much right as the guy who's the sloppy drunk does to be able to get drunk in his own home. So that's the reason for that. And it's also the point I always make on this show. Somebody asked me, oh, do you think you ought to be smoking on camera? Yeah, why not? Why shouldn't I be smoking on camera? I see shows that portray drinking all the time. Now they're not drinking on the network news or whatever, but still the point is, first of all, alcohol's not as bad, or marijuana's not as bad as alcohol, so that wouldn't be as much of a problem. But also to point out that I can be smoking marijuana on a, somewhat consistent basis here in the studio and still manage to put on a show, still manage to control all this technology. Sometimes better than others, but still, the point is to be made that guy with the wiffle ball sized joint and the pot leaf hat and the tie-dye is also this guy in the suit and tie and the corporate haircut, right? It's also this guy who writes 5,000 to 7,000 words a day and programs in multiple different languages and deals with multiple different platforms and systems, right? Those things can coexist at the same time. It doesn't. It goes back to his original argument, which was, marijuana needs to be legalized and we shouldn't throw people in jail, and medical marijuana could be good for some people. Industrial hemp might be a good product, yada, yada, yada. But you people just want to get high. Just be honest about it. Okay. Yeah, I want to get high. But that doesn't also mean that I want to support medical marijuana and I want to support industrial hemp. Just because I want to get high doesn't mean the rest of those things aren't true. Now, you might call my civil rights thing melodramatic, but I find it pretty damn dramatic when SWAT teams are breaking down the doors and throwing in grenades and firing their weapons and killing the dogs and terrorizing the children, all to serve a warrant that yields usually less pot than I smoked that day. So yeah, I find it pretty damn dramatic. And also, if you find that, some of us potheads make you want to, put us in a cannon and shoot us out in the ocean, if we seem a little bit fervent, well, there's plenty of good reason for that. There's 19,000 peer-reviewed studies that have delved into the medical effects of marijuana. There are extensive studies of the lack of major harm to people that use marijuana. There are the multitude of things that can be done with industrial hemp. Just go Google hempcrete, Hemcrete, hempcrete, no P. Go Google hemp biodiesel. I mean, we're not wrong here. Yeah, some of us may be a little bit, a little evangelical about it, but there's really good reason for that. And as for the it's my body argument, yours don't wash. My pot smoking doesn't harm anyone. Now, as far as the seatbelts and motorcycle helmets, that's public roads. If you want to have a private road, you can drive without a helmet all you like.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
All right, folks, stick around. We got another hour of this show to go. Toker Talk Radio. We take your calls at 971-533-7111 on politics and marijuana. Anything you want to talk about, the lines are open. Give us a call. For Ganja John, Wiz Cleco, and Cannabis Carry, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks, and until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
I have a package here for Radical Rick. Is there a Radical Rick here? How about a Rick Russ? Any Rick Russ? Somebody named Freddie Farrock has sent him a package.